Hello, good evening and welcome to another rip-roaring edition of Bike File with me, Wazza. This week, Louise is going to be out in Brussels talking with Honda legend Dave Hancock. Rod is going to be off doing this. And in the meantime, if you're wondering why there's a bit of background noise, it's because we are not even in the UK, we are here at the Vallelunga circuit in Italy for the launch of the 2003 1000 R. So, welcome to the rock and roll world that is the Motorcycle International press launch with this model, the 1000 R. Now this is going to be a first for you and a first for me. First for you because cameras have never been allowed to these events before, apart from the photographic stuff we normally bring. And secondly, a first for me because I've got to do a show about a bike that until now I have never actually ridden. But here it is in the flesh, the 2003 Aprilia 1000 R. We've got the Vallelunga circuit, which is a beautiful looking place just north of Rome to play with. And hopefully we are going to see what this little baby can do. Now, this being a launch, Aprilia have already set out their stall and told us what's new about the bike, what it's going to be doing for next year and why they think this is a better model. Their job on a trip like this is to make sure that we have a nice time and think that the bike is wonderful. So, what's new for 2003? It's a tricky spot that Aprilia have put themselves in with this bike because the 2002 1000 R is already an excellent motorcycle and it's one that generally tends to win the Supersports Twin group test. So, how do they improve something that's already pretty much spot on? First up, the 2003 1000 R is the first bike to be released onto the market to sport these radially mounted front calipers. Now these mountings, they've come down from GPs, they're a bit stiffer, they're a bit stronger, and the calipers behind them are the same excellent pad per piston ones that were on the 2002 1000 R. Aprilia have also tweaked the bike cosmetically to make sure that this model looks different to the one it replaces. As well as that, these differences should also make the bike slightly sleeker. That front end has been smoothed out a little bit. This tail unit gets a little bit smaller and also the pillion seat, should you wish to use it, is a little bit lower for better comfort. The big bug-eyed lights at the back stay, but the surround around them has got smaller. And finally, the frame has been done in black, along with the swinging arm. Again, for 2003, believe me, when it comes to frames and swinging arms, black is the new black. The final big change to this bike for 2003 is in the gearbox. Granted, everything down there looks exactly the same, but were you to poke inside or ride the bike, you will find that the first two ratios have got taller, third is slightly taller, fourth is exactly the same as it was last year, and fifth and sixth have been made slightly shorter. Effectively, you're getting a slightly close ratio gearbox as used in racing, but hopefully the way it's been balanced should work just as well on the road. Or at least this is what Aprilia are claiming now. We'll find out some more when we ride the bike.
Now, if you're a biker, the launch of a new motorcycle is always exciting, but the launch of a whole range of bikes is enough to cause sleepless nights. So when my invitation from Honda landed on the doormat to catch the new 2003 lineup, whew, I was over in Brussels faster than now you could say Belgian beer.
As the lights went down, smoke billowed into the arena. The scene was set. A foreman arrived, complete with microphone, hard hat and steel toe cap boots, and his job was to direct the wooden crates from the rear of Arctic lorries. Tension mounted.
So now the smoke is cleared, let's just remind ourselves what Honda have bought us in this 2003 lineup. First, we have this big cruiser, the VTX 1300. And next up, the newly revamped Varadero. And feast your eyes on this little beauty. It's the new CBR 600 RR and it is completely all new. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm eager to find out more. Right, let's find out a little bit more about this exciting lineup now with Dave Hancock here. Dave, your technical development, and go on, tell us the rest of your titles.
Well, I do after-sales support for my day job, and then when I'm not doing that, I'm just doing development riding for R&D. So, which means I go to Japan about 6 or 7 times a year, and to Germany, and really boring stuff actually. You know, nobody wants my job, to be honest. I get involved with the development of all the new bikes, really from the clay model on from there, right the way through to its introduction into the market. So it's quite interesting.
So what has the new the Honda customer got in store?
Well, lots of new things. I mean, we've got some new models this year. The new Varadero 1000cc on-off bike, trail bike. We've got a brand new CBR 600, which is probably my favourite bike of the moment that I've been involved with. It's the most incredible machine. I think 600s are my favourite bike anyway for my size, but the CBR 600 historically it's been the best-selling bike in the UK for quite a few years now, and this will certainly continue to do the same, I think.
And what market are you aiming for exactly with the new 600RR? Because of course we all know that biking's increased tremendously over the last couple of years. Is that a good bike for a novice biker, would you say?
Well, it depends. A novice rider really should build himself up or herself up through the ranks, so to speak, of bikes, and I wouldn't say it's a good idea to jump straight onto a CBR 600 if you've just passed your test without the proper tuition. A lot of people do actually, and there's not a problem. But as a straight sort of question, I would recommend that they actually get some formal training as well to do that.
Now then, Dave, let's go back to '92 when the Blade was launched, and how involved with that launch were you?
Right. Well, the Fireblade was launched in 1992, but actually we started development work on that in 1989. The first time I rode it was in Suzuka in Japan. I remember going into one of the garages and thinking, well, what's this bike and what's it going to be? And that turned out to be the Fireblade, and 3 years later it was launched into the market. And the rest really is history, because 6 years on it dominated all the superbike market, and it wasn't until the R1 came out, mentioning competitors, that it changed. But I would never forget that. It was just an incredible bike to be part of the development of.
One last question, Dave. I mean, race bikes obviously get faster and faster each year. That technology is then transferred to road bikes. I mean, where's this going to end?
Again, that's a difficult question. All I can say is that a few years ago, when we produced the Blackbird, if you remember, the CBR 1100, I must admit we were sort of chasing a 300 km/h bike, and then Suzuki came out with a Hayabusa, and Kawasaki came out with their machine, and we just decided that really enough was enough. So I don't think you'll see a lot of hyper super sports bikes achieving mega speeds now. We've gone more conservative for, say, more torque or just other features on the bike, really. So I think you're probably seeing a cap on what's going to be top speed, because let's face it, everybody needs a license at the end of the day.
So there you have it, a sneak preview there of Honda's 2003 lineup. But I knew someone who's had a much better look, and probably even a good old blast on all these bikes, the one and only Valentino Rossi.
Right, now before we go out on track for the first session of the day, I suppose I ought to explain a little bit about what goes on these launches, because it is a slightly alien environment to ride a motorcycle in. You see, when you do a group test of a bike, you've got the competition present, and jumping from one to another gives you a very good idea of how they all stack up. In the case of a launch, however, the only bikes present are the ones being launched. In this case, these. We've got nothing here for comparison. Fortunately, the one ace I am carrying up my sleeve is that just last weekend I was racing a 2002 Mille-AR at Alton Park, so it's a fairly fresh memory in my mind. I'll try and use that to find out what this one is like in comparison. Now, the other thing that's slightly tricky at a launch is the track. In many cases it's a circuit you haven't been to before, and I've certainly never been to Vallelunga before, which means I'll be spending my first 1 or 2 sessions of the day really getting familiar with the track before I can start to push the bike and learn what it's really going to do. And so, without further ado, let us away to the twists and turns of Vallelunga circuit. So we're out onto the circuit for the first session of the day. And what with never having been here before, it's time for me to get a feel for the place, start to work out a few braking markers, get an idea where the track goes, and really just work on building up to a pace where we can actually push the bike a bit and see what it's really made of. First session out of the way, and what have we learned? Well, I can tell you first of all that Vallelunga is a very good track indeed. It's fast in places, it's rarely straight, and it's a technical, twisty old place with plenty of awkward cambers to keep you on your toes. As for the bike, well, as far as I can tell so far, it might as well be the outgoing model, because I don't think I've gone fast enough yet to start ruffling its feathers. And with a couple of sessions down, the pace is coming up a bit, and it's time to have a little twiddle with the suspension. You see, this bike's been set up on basic track settings for the purposes of this launch, but the Olin suspension package on this bike is truly awesome and packs a load of adjustment if you want it. Now, on the one hand, this means that there is potential to wreck this bike's fine handling with the wrong adjustments, but on the other hand, if you know what you want, then the potential for ideal handling at any track you care to mention is but an adjuster's click away. Now for me, the bike feels a little more reluctant to turn into the track's faster corners than it need be. So we dial in a few more millimetres of ride height at the back to speed the steering up a touch. At the same time, the front end feels a little uneasy mid-corner in the track's tighter off-camber corners. It's not sliding, but the feeling from the bars is that I'll be on my arse if I push much harder. So hopefully the ride height adjustment will cant a little more weight onto the front to boost the grip, but as well as that, we add in a few more clicks of rebound damping up at the front end just to help hold it down mid-corner, stop it bouncing back so quickly. All this should give us a more planted front end along with the better steering. Welcome back to part 2. So what we've got here is an Aprilia Melee R that is slightly better than the bike it replaces. Not massively, but it's been tweaked very well to take it a fraction ahead, which is all that can be asked really. It was excellent before, it's excellent now, and most importantly, if you want a Melee R, it's going to be very obvious whether you've got the 2003 or the 2002, thanks to the cosmetic tweaks that have been made to this bike. Good job, well done, I would say.
"20 years ago, BMW discontinued their venerable flat-twin boxer engine in favour of a more modern 4, the K-Series. But the boxer refused to go quietly, and the huge public outcry from fans worldwide made sure that its disappearance was only temporary. When the bike re-emerged in 1993, it had undergone a remarkable transformation with double overhead camshafts, 4-valve heads, fuel injection and radical new suspension. Back in the game in a big way, the bike came in a range of options, including a sports bike to follow in the great tradition of the R90S and the R100S. Here, by public demand, is BMW's latest sports twin, the R1100S. Whichever way you look at it, the R1100S is an impressive motorcycle. With 98 brake horsepower, a 6-speed gearbox and a dry weight of only 229 kilograms, the bike is quite obviously a very potent mix. With BMW's radical paralever and telelever suspension systems and ergonomics by the company who invented the term, you've got an excellent recipe here for a very capable, high-speed, high-performance sports bike. And thank goodness the public insisted on its return, for in the new generation of boxer engine bikes, BMW have a range of gems. The combination of lusty air-cooled engine with state-of-the-art suspension and engine management bring a character and sophistication to the market which could only have evolved. While well capable of touring, the R1100S is BMW's sportiest model and offers a distinctly racy riding position. The low bars and firm narrow seat don't offer the levels of comfort associated with BMW's Tourers, but still make the bike much more comfortable than most Japanese sports bikes. And what fun it is to ride! The 1085cc engine begins to deliver power as soon as you twist the throttle, and as you accelerate through the gears, the power just keeps coming. There is some vibration and a little torque reaction from the motor, which will pull to one side when you blip the throttle at a standstill. Underway, this is never a problem, and it all adds to what some would call character. It's just enough to remind you that you're riding a real motorcycle here, and not taking a ride on some bland arcade computer game. But in the styling department, the S really takes the prize. It's a sleek, purposeful looking bike. The under-the-seat pipes, exposed industrial looking motor, all topped with this beautifully sculpted tank and fairing unit, looks really sporty. It gets lots of admiring glances. The R1100S combines the virtues of a traditional air-cooled twin-cylinder engine with the latest high-tech engineering, up-to-the-minute styling and superb build quality. And it's not as expensive as you might think. Marks out of 10 then. Performance. The big stonking motor is torquey and tractable. Handling is stable, light and flickable, and the brakes are up to the job. You may get overtaken by the occasional R1, but you'll have a bigger grin on the BM. I'll give it 7 out of 10. For comfort, if you like to sit on your bike like a sack of potatoes and cruise, this may not be the bike for you. The semi-racing crouch can be hard on the wrists in traffic, and a passenger is perched precariously high in the air behind you. This is a sports bike after all, but BMW have gone to great lengths to make the bike human-shaped. And at speed, it's very comfortable. I'll give it 6 for comfort. Build quality, 9 out of 10. No one does it better than BMW. The finish and standards of detailing are top class, and all BMWs now come with a 2-year unlimited mileage warranty. Even the service intervals are 6,000 miles apart. Street cred, 8 out of 10. The BMW badge is synonymous with quality and style. If you're looking for a flash pose, you may be tempted away by the multicoloured graphics of the latest Japanese bolide. If you want to ooze quality on the street, take a good look at this BMW.
Performance, 9 out of 10. Already an excellent package. This bike has got slightly better, so it's going to score very highly. The suspension has more adjustment in it than one of Jordan's bras. The motor is strong and punchy. The new gearbox lets you really make the most of it, particularly getting the drive on out of tight, slow corners. And essentially what you've got here is an awesome road-going superbike package. Perhaps one of the best handling bikes out of the box you can buy today. Street cred. Well, look at the thing. These bikes get better looking every year, and this is the best looking yet. It's beautiful. It doesn't quite have the shapely lines of a 998, but next to a 999, I think I'd take one of these any day. So we could take a point off for the fact that they are becoming very popular, so there's quite a few about, but that's being a little churlish as they are still only brought into the country in fairly limited numbers. I reckon overall score 9 out of 10. Comfort, 7 out of 10. At last, something we can have a bit of a pop at this bike for. Granted, it's a super sports bike, it's not meant to be the most comfortable thing in the world. Even so, if you get into town, wrist take off the low bars and the heavy clutch is still going to come your way. So, not perfect, but really it's picking holes in a very solid package. Build quality, 7 out of 10. Good sturdy paintwork, everything's well finished. These bikes are very well put together, but you will still have to lavish more love and attention on one of these than you would perhaps with a more ordinary Japanese sports bike. However, that is the price of owning something a little bit different. Value for money. Bit hard to put a score on this as the list price has yet to be announced, but we know that the previous Mill AR at somewhere around the £9,000 mark was very good value for money. Not a cheap motorcycle by any stretch, but for what you get if you're serious about your sports performance and your track riding, it's an awesome package. So, assuming that the price doesn't go too sky high when the bike is finally launched to us next year, we're going to give this a 7 out of 10, pending maybe an 8 or maybe a 6 if the price goes up or down. Right, well, I'm afraid that's it for another episode of Bike File, and unfortunately, we've now got to leave Vallelunga. You've got to leave us, but please do join us again for the next episode.